20 billion.
Around 20 now that
we are all in consensus that you cannot develop and run Nairobi with 20 billion plus 12 billion plus another 10 billion. It is insufficient. And of course,
which are the 10 billion?
The one from Nairobi Water?
Oh no, yeah, that is for...
Yes, and that's ring fence for in fact, even that 10 billion
is not enough.
Is not sufficient to provide sanitation and water services to Nairobi.
Yeah.
And really the question is, what is the thinking? Because the Urban Areas and Cities Act requires that there should be specific financing for cities. But it does not come through DORA. You have to go and negotiate a nil before Treasury. I don't know who you've been talking to acquire the additional 4 billion. Why can't we institutionalize that conversation so that it is not a begging mission by the governor of Nairobi to the national government? How can we help you to institutionalize it and to ring-fence it? Because the money you have is not enough.
Chair and Governor, you can take this together. There's something Senator Cherargei said about your friendships. At least I know that one of your friends, my party leader, has taken a position on division of revenue.
Yes.
All those things you are saying, when you discuss with your party leader, what does he say about your views? Because at least mine is clear on how much money should come to the counties. I just want to know, what does he say about some of the things you're saying? And number two, we have had a conversation in this city about the money that is owed by national government institutions through unpaid rates to the Nairobi City County. Again, I want to understand, when you have those conversations with your party leader, who's the head of state, what is his position on these things? Or should we wait until your other friend becomes the head of state so that these things can be done?
I thought you were keen on institutionalizing the conversations rather than basing it on friendship.
It's about to be head of the African state.
On a more substantive issue, Governor has alluded to that in the history of devolution, I don't know whether within Nairobi City County or across the country, he has collected at 12.8 billion.
Yes.
In comparison to what? Because, you know, when he says what is the target and the revenue potential, I don't know whether Dahir, you can tell us what is the revenue potential, or Salat, who is here, the revenue potential of Nairobi City County, because what governor is collecting of 12.8 billion is that the auditor does not have the view of the system in itself. And maybe governor can be gracious as he is today and smiley today, is that he should tell us how much under Nairobi Metropolitan Services, and he cannot run away from this because he was the area senator, and then how much were they collecting comparison to 12.8 billion that we are talking about? Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, and I think, Governor, it's also fair when you congratulate yourself on 12.8, yes, that it needs to be against the potential of Nairobi city. You know, that then gives a better picture. But I just wanted to make brief responses, because really this was not a substantive conversation, but it's also important that when a governor comes to the Senate, we can find areas, and you can tell us how you want us to help you. Because ultimately, the 1.2 million you're collecting per hour sounds like a lot of money to some people. But for those of us who have looked at it holistically, it might not be sufficient to transform Nairobi. Yes.
Thank you, Chair. Very good questions. Thank you, Senator Sifuna, Senator Cherargei, my immediate former good friend, but I really wish you can come back, and Senator Chairman.
Your immediate former friend.
Chair. The first question, the first point you've raised, is institutionalization of the relationship. Nairobi City County as a council used to actually lend money to even the national entities, you know, in the 60s and 70s. In fact, if you look at the history of the biggest infrastructural development of water systems, from 1904, Kikuyu Springs, 1928, Ruiru Dam, 1956, Sasumwa, and then to 94 to 97, Dakaine, which is 84% of our water, they were fully done by Nairobi City Council, you know. And that potential is there when there had been order. A lot of that got lost over time, which is what we're trying to restore. Section 6 of that Urban Areas and Cities Act then provides for you what we call an intergovernmental agreement of financing the capital, which is very different from the mistake of 187 of transfer of functions, which we would never do, we as Nairobi County. Because even those that were transferred were not performed efficiently. There's a huge pending outstanding liability of around 16 billion that needs to be sorted out, and I'm glad we agreed with the Auditor General that all of those remain at the Executive Office of the President to solve, because it was a national intervention. You know, the Nairobians would possibly not have prioritized some of those things that they did and failed to pay, you know. And so we want to work on that agreement, and we're currently doing, in terms of certain things. And I'll give you an example. Street lighting is a function of the county government. Security is a national function. If the county government cannot have the lights lit, security is affected. Why is Nairobi power bill, the bills that we have, has a component of rural electrification? Yet we are performing a function that is really concurrent. And so there had been a special tariff set for lighting of the urban areas. I remember that had been negotiated. That will form part of this agreement. That yes, we will light all the streets in the city, but we will not pay as if we are selling electricity. It is not commercial, it is for security. And we want to do that. In fact, we're in talks to do another 100,000 street lights in the city. Currently we have 68,000. That agreement will look at infrastructure that is shared. For instance, and here I will come to you again for support. We have seen...
Maybe before you go there, so that intergovernmental agreement, does one exist?
No. That is we are currently working on. I gave an example of this past Monday with the Cabinet Secretary of Davis Chichir on how then they can finance that 4 billion. And we want to do it expedited, because this December, we want people to come up from Christmas to new roads, you know. We want to, like what we did outside here, just outside Bunge. You've seen the walkway in the garden. That was Nairobi County government, you know. But we can replicate it all the way downtown. 1.3 billion is what is required for lower CBD, 759 for upper CBD. We've costed all of those, but we want that framework so that the national government can be allowed to chip in and for the county to chip in.
So there's never been any financing under that framework from the commencement of county governments?
Not a formal one.
So Nairobi has only relied on equitable share and on-source revenue.
And if you look at that 20 billion of on-source, vis-a-vis a wage bill of 18 billion. Yeah.
18 billion is your wage bill.
Thereabout,
you expect 22 billion from...
Not 22, 20.
20. So what comes from the consolidated fund will go to servicing salaries.
Only pay salaries. Everything you do in Nairobi, every road, every school, every child fed.
What's the amount you remain with for development? After doing your wages, after doing your assembly, after doing your operations, and how much goes into development?
It's less than 10 billion. I'll ask my CFO to look at it and I'll give you the specific number.
It's definitely much lower than 10 billion. It's probably 5 billion. It's probably 5 billion because